It's the final match of the open qualifiers here for CCG, and it could not be a bigger match for a multitude of reasons. This is going to be an action-packed 3-1 matchup. Number 5 seed CCG, you already know that, but the opponent, number 7 Komodo. And the best part about this is we have a bit of a civil war on hands here, because Komodo's roster is headlined by Topo in the top lane and Kitsuo in the jungle. And for you ACL fans, know that that is the top laner and jungler for CCG's ACL team, the teammates of Detro. I mean, what a poetic way to end this run for both of these teams, Bonfire.
I think that if you're a Crim or anybody else at CCG, this just feels great that you have all these players who you've worked with and that you support in the ACL, and they're all doing incredibly well. Both teams are 3-1 right now, looking for that 4-1 slot, but both teams have made it through, and it's probably just a great feeling. We obviously had a chance to chat with Crim a little bit after that second game today, and he just talked extensively about providing opportunities for players, for coaches, for casters, and that's why, I've been working for CCG for just 2 days now, but it does feel like it's a pretty cool organization in that sense of giving people an opportunity. And this is kind of the best way to cap that off right here, is having 3 of the ACL players playing in this final matchup. And very cool. Neither of these teams could be knocked out. They've both already done it. So this is kind of like a cherry on top for all the CCG fans and staff and everybody working to make CCG a great organization. This probably feels like a pretty cool matchup to end the day.
Yeah, it's just the cherry on top of the entire open qualifiers. And the fun part is, it's not like anybody is shutting anybody out from advancing here. This is 2 3-1 teams. So there's not going to be any bittersweetness to this. Maybe a little bit just the fact that one of these two squads has to see that defeat screen. But the most interesting thing I want to talk about, because before we get into draft, is, and this is still so weird to me to talk about based off like how irrelevant this champion has been in League of Legends for years. Rel is the biggest talking point with these two teams, because we just saw what Detro does when he gets Rel. But Kitsuo is probably one of the biggest Rel jungle players in North America right now. Makes a really interesting draft we're about to have on hand.
I think that with Rel's changes, they're finally a champion that can be used really in multiple lanes, obviously in the jungle and the support. But you start to see the reason that Rel was created with these changes, right? You have the engage, you're tanky, you bring everybody together, and then obviously the whole idea was that you're not really able to get out super easily because of being unmounted. But it's a really interesting champion design. I'm glad they've made these changes. And this is how Rel is supposed to feel, where it's kind of that give and take, right? You go in, there's not really a way to get out, but you're kind of sitting in the middle of everybody, stunning people up, stealing resistances. It's very unique to a lot of the junglers who, or a lot of the engaged champions who go in and they're tanky, sure, but they're able to get out. Rel's very much not that way. And with these changes, we're starting to see Rel in her purest form, which is a lot of fun to watch.
Tons of fun to watch in Deep Bonfire. It almost feels like, let me know what you think about this. I'm going to run with something here. I feel like Rel is just a more complex, improved on Leona.
I see where you're going with that. My issue is that Leona's single target CC, where Rel really advances with multiple target CC. If I were to compare Rel to somebody, it's difficult, but I think Rakan, minus all of obviously the movement abilities, but Rakan has the ability to dash in, get multiple knockups, charm multiple people, kind of bring everybody to a similar place. And so I guess similar to Rakan, kind of similar to Diana with the ultimate. But Rel's just a very unique champion, which I think is what makes her so interesting.
Yeah, super, super intriguing champion. And hopefully, I have a feeling it's going to get banned out. But hopefully we get to see it played by either one of these two that we're mentioning here. It's important to mention, and to no one's surprise, for the 5th and final time, CCG the higher seed. They do select that blue side one more time. So they do have the B1 capability. But that does make me think that Komodo are going to go ahead and take away that Rel. But there's so many other champions to talk about, and there's so many other players in this game to talk about. Honestly, even in the support conversation, we've talked about, we felt like in every single matchup on Fire that Detro is certainly the favorite support when you pair whoever against whoever in this matchup. But I'm really excited. Kenji has been a part of this level of league for a while, a really star-studded support for a long time, in my opinion. On the other side for Komodo, I really can't wait to see how both Kenji and Detro play, because there's just so much niche things to support. You know better than I do that when you watch two high-level supports play together, really can just create so much in a game.
Yeah, I think the macro of two really good supports playing against each other is always the most interesting. You know, the small battles for brush control, you know, counting the wave to make sure that when you take a trade, you're not taking too much damage, and then always just trying to fight over tiny lines. You know, it's a war of attrition when it comes to really great supports. And when you're able to get to a favorable position and make sure that your AD carry is constantly being peeled off, that's when you know you're a fantastic support. And so we should have a treat for ourselves in the bot lane. I think also someplace to look at, you kind of mentioned the jungle matchup. I think Hyper has had a fantastic day and really a fantastic weekend so far, other than a couple of oversteps in the jungle. Has been one of CCG's by far and away outstanding players. And being, you know, having to go against Kitsuo, like you talked about, is not going to be easy. Kitsuo, you know, even when they're not on the route, still an incredible jungler. And so I think we've got ourselves a treat in the jungle as well.
And I got to talk to Krim before once the matchup got announced, because I know Krim is just so excited. It was easy to hear even through a Discord call just how excited he was to see these two teams go together. And you mentioned to tell me that, you know, Topo obviously Topo, you know, he loves Topo. Topo loves CCG. They're a big part of these two squads, but they couldn't move on from Shocky. I mean, it's Shocky, right? As we do switch over to the draft screen here, you can't move away from Shocky. So
in Shocky we trust.
It hurts in Shocky we trust. It's not fun that Topo had to move on, but Krim is excited for him to get this opportunity with Komodo, and now gets an opportunity to take down one of the titans of the open qualifiers in the top lane with Shocky. As we are underway with draft, and unfortunately, Relban came through.
Yeah, I'm not surprised in the slightest. LeBlanc ban also being passed through. I'm not sure if people know something about Rain LeBlanc that we don't know. I asked Krim, or I didn't ask Krim. I was going to ask Krim, am I allowed to continue to make fun of the LeBlanc picks, because I'm such not a fan of them. But they're just getting banned now, which I just don't understand. It didn't really feel like it was that strong in the games it was played. Also, just Ahri got completely left up. And so I think the most interesting thing in here is that CCG on blue side, again, haven't really had a consistent first pick. Usually when you choose blue side, you really want to lock in somebody that you feel great about. Haven't really had that, as they go with a different first pick, and they grab themselves the Cassandra.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, if you match Yorick to Cassante, it's gonna be the Ornn though. So as much fun as this matchup is gonna be for Topo versus Shocky, is on Ornn duty, and the last person to do Ornn duty against Shocky did not have a fun game. But to be fair, Shocky was playing Gwen into Ornn. Cassante should still have that lane prio, but Ornn won't fall off a cliff trying to fight the Gwen compared to the Cassante. The Kai'Sa locked in again. It's another Kai'Sa. It's the third game where a Kai'Sa is going up against Lunar, and why not go back to the Jinx after that stellar game you highlighted so well, Bonfire, against in their last bout?
Yeah, and it feels like Lunar is kind of coming into their own on that champion and on that kind of play style, especially with a front line like Ahri and Cassante. I mean, why not, right? Like that, right. You should never really be in danger. Obviously, you do not have that Rel available that Detro likes to play so much, but Detro can play a Nautilus or a Leona or a Rakan or something of that sort. I do think that when you see the Cassante and the Ahri, which are two picks I love, I do think the Jinx is the right pick.
Yeah, this draft is going the way a lot similar to the way we expected. It's curious because they're clashing the ideals of the game they lost and the games they've won. Because Cassante was Shocky's champion in the game that they lost, but was a very well performer as Kitsuo. That's a call. He's gonna steal away Hyper's Lee Sin. If you missed it, Hyper is 1.6 million mastery points on Lee Sin, and Kitsuo says, "All right, let's see if I can impress the king of Lee Sin."
Yeah, and it's funny because they banned out the Poppy, and so CCG, I think probably we were looking for the Lee Sin at a certain point because you ban the Poppy. That's kind of Lee Sin's strongest counters, kind of telegraphing where you might go. And Itsuo just says, you know what? Thanks for the Poppy, man. I'm just gonna take the Lee Sin for myself. The question is, where does CCG go with this when you don't have the Lee Sin? Because I believe we've had 3 Lee Sin games, if I'm remembering correctly, and then the one Hecarim game. I could be
2 Lee
wrong.
Sin, 1 Viego, 1 Hecarim.
The Viego, right? Yes, obviously the Viego. That's what I was missing. But we haven't really seen Hyper on a lot of different champions. They do leave the Viego open, but just doesn't have as much clash ability against the Lee Sin. And so it should be interesting to see where Hyper chooses to go after this.
CCG right now have a huge range advantage. Kaisa, Ornn, very close combat, Lee Sin, melee. I wouldn't hate now that it's gotten through. Kindred might be a really big pick here for Hyper. He did hover it before selecting, before they changed the draft strategy on yesterday's game. I thought it would have been a really smart lock-in. We talked about pre-game 1 of today, how that Kindred pick could have been really pivotal. So I'm intrigued to see if he'll take the Kindred. Lissandra, Silas, they're going after Dox's champ pool, and he goes for the Yasuo. Couple of knockups available without just his tornado, and that is one hell of a call anytime you lock him in.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting now because usually when you have Yasuo, you like to have a Diana with it because of that Guambo or a Yone, but they only haven't picked support. I think you could look at maybe an Alistar or a Rakan if you want to really, if you want to hammer that all out. But it does look like CCG want to steal away the Alistar, and they do. Really interesting draft strategy for both of these teams. The Bel'Veth is now being hovered, which is like Kindred except for melee, I suppose.
I still really like the Kindred because, I mean, just look at the range discrepancy. You play Yasuo. If you play Kindred here, the All-Star is great peel, Cassante is great peel. Everybody else is as a range advantage. It could be that you could just make sure the Komodo never gets close to you, but it will be the Bel'Veth locked in, Hyper's 4th unique champion of the 5 games this weekend.
I was about to say with the Kindred, you also get Lamb's Respite for the Yasuo ultimate, and so you can protect from that really big burst. They choose to instead go with the Bel'Veth, which I guess makes sense when you're going into a Lee Sin, because if you go Kindred, I mean, best of luck. You're kind of screwed. A good Lee Sin will just take everything from you. So I think there's concerns about going a scaling jungler in that sense. So they do go with the Bel'Veth, and then the response is the Soraka, which I kind of get for healing. I don't know if the silence is as effective as one would want, but it's not terrible.
No, it's certainly not a terrible pick. Bel'Veth, though, still is a scaling jungler there, Bonfire, for sure.
I think that they can clash a little bit better with Lee Sin than a Kindred.
Definitely more of a bruiser and likes to be up in people's faces for sure. Will be very intriguing to watch this. We certainly had a very interesting draft. It's interesting. Bonfire's had the hot opinions about some of these drafts more compared to me. I think this is my favorite CCG draft of the weekend, mostly because of how well I think this plays against Komodo. If CCG just play resolved and play back in some of these fights and some of these skirmishes, and you dare Komodo to come into you, you can really just zone out so many of these players. Like, if you just aren't giving up a huge knock-up on Call of the Forge God, if you're not letting Kitsuo set Doxa up, how are they going to get on top of CCG?
I think you raised a very good point. I do think that you have to keep an eye on Kitsuo, because that's where a lot of this is going to come down to, is landing the perfect kick. I think if Lunar dies, then it gets really dicey for CCG, just in terms of consistent damage. Hyper's just going to be going into you're going into a Yasuo Ornn as a Bel'Veth. Like, you're just going to get crushed. And so I do think that ensuring that Lunar feels safe is kind of priority number 1. I think that I do like this draft quite a lot. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's my favorite, just because I loved those Rel games from Detro so much. But it is a very, very good draft to end the weekend. And this is the draft that they trust to take them to the 4-1 promised land after a fairly disappointing day 1.
Very, very true. And hey, Bonfire, it might be technicality, but it's another game where it's double reset for team fights. I mean, Belveth resets off that Coral if she gets a kill too. So kind of similar strategy there. Detro, I know you talked about it in the last game when Detro was performing so well on the Rel, how the Alistar struggled. It really feels like just thought he was a lot tankier than he was when he for those engages pre-6. Hopefully recognizes that and plays a little more cautiously until Unbreakable Will is available to him.
Yeah, I think that was just. I mean, Detro didn't have a terrible game by any means, but it did feel like every time that Detro engaged, they just died. And so it was always going to be either a 1-for-1, or hopefully if Detro did enough, more than a 1-for-1, but they always died. And so versus the Rel games where you saw, obviously with the Rel, you jump in, you stun, buy yourself a little bit more time while you steal resistances, you just get a little bit tankier. And I do think that's why Rel is more meta than the Alistar right now. But Alistar, the biggest difference, I think, is that you're able to get better single target damage than the Rel consistently, because the Rel kind of telegraphs her moves. And so I keep an eye on Detro in the bot lane. Detro Lunar should have a fairly dangerous bot lane to go against.
Well, this game is dangerous in multiple ways. This draft has been so fun, but the headlining factor is the Civil War finale of the Open qualifiers. Komodo, the number 7 seed, versus CCG, your 5th seed. Detro taking on his ACL teammates in Kitsuo and Tapo. You won't want to miss it, and you know exactly why. So stick with us through this final intermission, and we'll see you on Summoner's Rift. Couldn't have scripted a more poetic finish for CCG. Some friendly faces on the other side on the number 7 seed. Komodo, both of these squads chasing a big 4-1 mark, moving to the closed group stage of the qualifiers. It's been a long road to get here for both these squads. A tumultuous one at points for CCG, but all that counts is this one final bout in a familiar battleground.
Yeah, this is the most important game. It's also the least important game. It is the last game of the MLB season between two rivals battling for the difference between winning the division and going to the wild card. It is both teams are in the playoffs. It's just the difference of seeding, and both of these teams, they don't hate each other, but would love to beat the other team. So that's the best way I could put it. I explained it in baseball terms, which means nobody understood what I just said.
I got
because all I'm saying is the crossover between the MLB and League of Legends is like 7 people, and we might have actually found all 7 people in CCG right now.
It's just all of us here at CCG. But that's exactly the logic I was thinking. Hey, listen, pull back to your roots, right? You're rooted in basketball. I'm rooted in basketball. You're rooted in baseball. I do want to quickly segue here because I do feel like there is. I guess it would have been hard to capitalize it, but the one rule whenever you play against a Yasuo, in my mind, is you have to have somebody run exhaust. And CCG don't have anybody running exhaust. The counter to it, though, Bonfire, is there's really only one member on this team where it would have made any sort of sense.
Yeah, I understand, wanting to go exhaust against a Yasuo because of that knockup. I do think that the ultimate is kind of it's in itself. Normally you'd run an exhaust when it's like a Yone Diana paired along with the Yasuo, solely because of like the Diana damage or the Yone damage paired along with the Yasuo damage. But I do agree with where you're coming from, as right now this Soraka is just bullying Lunar and Detro.
Yeah, the level 2 power, 2 range champions able to zone pretty well. But like we saw last game when Lunar was running a Jinx, they're totally completely fine weak siding. Now, the difference between the Aphelios game and the Jinx game was that the opposing team was not punishing Lunar on this Jinx, and the Aphelios game was getting turret dove by 4 people at like 4 minutes. So we'll definitely see how Kitsuo wants to play this, but Lunar has already shown completely comfortable playing passively on that bot side. And Kitsuo looks like he wants to go right after Hyper, which is certainly fun to see. These two share 3 million mastery points between Lee Sin. And we have about already 4 members here. Beautiful flash charm from Rain there onto Kitsuo. First blood, though, goes the way of ZKG, but now they have Foamy Cry punished and cornered. Big kill picked up by Rain. Flash over the wall, 2 for Doxes. He just has to get out of the enemy jungle. CCG give up first blood, but take 2 in procession.
there is a world where Detro has the headbutt up and just headbutts that Yasuo back into danger. Unfortunately, did not have it up, but still, CCG come out on top with that battle. Just kind of battling in their jungle, trying to get some damage off, and really good recognition because obviously Homacry and ZKG had the first roam, and so initially it was not favored for the CCG side, but really good knowledge of knowing that the Ahri was going to be there. Lunar and Detro cleared out the wave and joined as well, and you're right, even though they do give up that first blood, I think you're always going to take the numbers advantage as ZKG kind of not respecting that the Jinx could have been there.
Steps on the trap as well into the combo. Detro just punishes ZKG and finds that kill. Benji gonna drop off there, and now Homacry is under a switch. Hyper picks up that kill before Kitsuo can even show up, as the ward hop out. In the CCG bottom lane, we thought may play passively, aggressively grabs a double up.
Yeah, ZKG, not really sure what they were thinking. Didn't see anyone finish their backs as Hyper. Whoa.
Hyper, yeah, goes in to get Kitsuo, and that's another big kill. And my God, Kitsuo, you do not want to be giving 2 kills over to a scaling Bel'Veth.
Yeah, this game is kind of blown open already. I mean, it is already a 1.5, almost 2,000 gold lead for CCG, and this is what you don't want to do if you're going to a competitive game against a higher seed, is just throw away an early lead. Kind of a disaster for Komodo. They try to find something across the map. They try to find kills, and it's just backfired to the tune of 5-1 in the kill department.
And the one solace, I guess, if you're looking for silver linings here, is that 2 of the 5 kills have gone Detro's way. But look, he's already out on the prowl with those Moby boots roaming. Big knockup throws him back towards Rain, and Dox has to dash away, but he gets hit by the charm. Stunned up, trying to make a turn here. Rain low on mana, has to hit this Q to pick up the kill, and will. So Detro cashes in on 2 kills, is already out roaming like a mad cow.
Yeah, I mean, this game is blown open. It is a 2,000 gold lead at 5.5 minutes. As long as CCG doesn't blunder insanely hard, this game kind of feels over already. They would really need to screw something up pretty badly. Make sure they get the backs off, don't fall too far behind in the neutral objective game. And they have put themselves in a very, very good position to go 4-1. And if you're Komodo, this one just feels awful, because you continue to try to make plays across the map with your early strong champions like the Lee Sin, like the Yasuo, and you're just getting outroamed by Detro and outroamed by Hyper.
Yeah, it's a beautiful display here from CCG, who so far have either been slow to the early game plays or passive and equal. Is a bit of training going there from Doxa, but big knockup coming across here from Hyper, just chopping him up, slicing him up, and that's a killing spree. Kitsuo jumps in just a little too late, might get punished for beautiful charm into the Spirit Rush. Hyper and Rain double up again, and my God, CCG, they're not even done yet running away with this one. ZKG, where are you going, my friend? On the wrong side of the river, and that's just going to be a free kill for Lunar. Hopefully, there's the rock in, there's the kill. 9-1 before 7 minutes. My God, CCG.
This is really bad, Slayer. I mean, not for CCG, of course, but for Komodo, this is one of the worst starts I've ever seen in a League of Legends game. I usually you can go at least 8 minutes, with both teams just turtling. Even if a team's a little bit, further behind, they'll just kind of turtle a little bit and focus on CSing. They just continue to press the go button. They are down 3,500 gold at 7 minutes. This is queued up, assuming that CCG keeps their foot on the pedal, to be a pre-20-minute win. I mean, this is awful. This is really, really bad for Komodo.
Yeah, this is super hard to watch by this point. And, obviously, we're here cheering for CCG, but I'm going to be honest with you, Bonfire. I mean, with all the stakes of this game and the familiarity, I was hoping for a close match.
Yeah, I was also hoping for that. We wanted to see a great bout, especially because all of the nerves of, having to try to, go in. Hold on.
Oh, my God. I mean, what's there to say? Just ZKG punished way too far for going up. Hyper is able to pick up that ultimate form as well. And yet, Detro toying with a turret dive on a Homacry. And there's just so little to say by this point. It's a complete travesty. And, oh, boy, Detro's going back to that mid-well. Doxa does dodge out on the charm. Kitsuo's now here. The NATO going to miss wide, and I assume Detro won't step up here with charm down, but man, desperation is already here, and we haven't even crossed double digits on the minute. timer.
Yeah, and Kitsuo and Doxa are being corralled again.
Yep, there's all out onto Kitsuo. The knockup from Detro is beautiful to cancel out the dash, but there's the turn from Doxa. They have Shocky. They've blown up the Ari as well in a blink of an eye. Shut down City. Komodo just opened the door back wide open.
Yeah, they just halved the gold lead from 4,000 to 2,000, and they're going to get the Rift Herald here as well. So suddenly, what it looked pretty terrible is, so, whoa, hold on.
Oh, Hyper's going in on his ZKG. Around 4, picks
No
up the first
way.
one.
There's
Hits
no
the reset.
way.
Huge damage, but can't find the next trade. Nearly had a shot at it, but that's the third straight shutdown. That one in the hands of Kitsuo, and that gold lead is down under 1,000.
What is going on, Slayer? That was inting. I normally I like to put a spin on it. You know, maybe they were going for this, maybe they're going for that. They are just, I mean, this is terrible. This gold lead is gone. Oh, Doxa.
Now Doxa might be overstaying. Detro does not have ultimate here, so a lot squishier, but still just 1 versus 2ing. Dox is in front of Rain, can't find the NATO to land, didn't even have the ultimate available on Yasuo if he wanted to. So we're getting a little bit of calmness here, but man, we've got a game on our hands once more. The reverse caster curse, I guess, just came through.
I don't even know if it was a caster curse. I don't know why. Hyper, I don't know why they went for that. I genuinely think both teams are just having fun here because are these the 3-1 teams right now? Are these teams that have destroyed everybody else in the competition? Just going for plays that they know they're going to lose. It's definitely having fun, you know, trying to play the Civil War in a fun manner. I don't know. I really don't have a tactical explanation for some of the moves that have been created. And yeah, like you said, the gold lead has, I mean, it was at 4,000 2 minutes ago.
It's unbelievable. This game is still in the hands of CCG. Don't let's get this wrong. We're just baffled by the fact that it's gone a lot closer. In the background, Hyper has been able to secure that first Drake. The Scuttle did, excuse me, not the Scuttle. The first Rift Herald did go the way of Kitsuo, but they're still in commanding lead right now, and they do have the better scaling factor overall. But it's pretty close, especially with those Ornn itemizations that should come through later.
Yeah, I do think that there is a world where Komodo can come back into this game at this point, as there's 4 members bot. There's a possible tower dive. No teleports on Topo and Doxa. And without a wave, it does seem like they do not want to go for that. Doxa now might be the one who's caught out.
Has flash if he needs to go over this wall here. There's the first bout of Spirit Rush. Gets the shield down. Second one stepping up into Call the Forge God, though. They're going to try and turn this on to Rain. No knockups landing just yet. Big Charm. Hyper throws Doxa into the air. Stalling enough time. There's the last breath, though, and Doxa on a killing spree. Shocky can't find the trade. He flashes over the wall. Goes all out on top of the Topo, but Hyper has to flash away from the fight as well. Kitsuo now trying to turn things onto Shocky. Will nearly find the kill. Detro somehow finds the kill onto Doxa. Finally, Shocky will fall, and Detro will have to drop as well. A double kill over to Kitsuo as Komodo continue to crawl back.
Yeah, this game is even now. I'm going to repeat that. This game is even now, Slayer. It was a 4,000 gold lead at 7.5 minutes. I don't have words for how this game has gone. I mean, your most fed member is Hyper. I think you need to get Lunar involved in these fights a little bit more. CCG doing a little bit of the INT, and they are taking fights they don't need to. They are trying to force issues across the map, and they have. I mean, because of that, this game is now even. I cannot believe I'm saying that.
It's insane to me by this point, and they're getting the gold on the right members too. I mean, Doxa had a killing spree going on there, has some serious itemization, but the one silver lining for me is going to be Hyper. Also, Lunar 1-0 and 6, the Jinx is scaling up, but when you let Bel'Veth get extended early, it usually spells doom for the game, because at some point with Bel'Veth's itemizations, she just becomes unkillable in fights.
Yeah, Detro wanting to go in for an engage now, and yep, more fighting.
Ooh, there's a charm, landed on top. Kitsuo, huge double knockup, but into the double kick, last breath. My God, Doxa and Kitsuo turn another fight, and they're gonna cash in 2 more big kills.
Yeah, they have a 1,000 gold lead now. Komodo has swung back a 4,000 deficit into a 1,000 gold lead, and they're not stopping here because they're going to invade the jungle. They're going to take more turret plates. There's nothing the bot lane or Shocky can do about it. This is a disaster. It is a 2,000 gold lead for Komodo. That is a 6,000 gold switch in about 5 minutes. I don't know what to say.
It's not even like CCG are making the incorrect plays either, right? Like that was a good setup. You had the charm land from Rain. You had the double knockup from Hyper. It's just Komodo are outplaying CCG in these fights time after time. And now they're sitting on a pretty sizable gold lead. The only reason this game is pretty close on a knife's edge is because the dragon stacking is still in the favor of CCG.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, this Lee Sin is huge. This Yasuo is huge. This Ornn is deathless, and so it's going to be an incredibly tanky Ornn. And obviously, you have the ornaments coming in a couple of levels. This Kai'Sa has been put a little bit behind, but is still very much in this game. A lot of the kills are on this Alistar, which is, less than ideal. It just feels like CCG have completely thrown this lead away, which they have. Although they might try to find something here. Detro, no.
Detro does trade his flash, though, for Fomicry, so you take that any day of the week. But can the turn come out? There's Killer Instinct. Kitso is here. Lands the Resonating Strike on top of Hyper. The exhaust over top. Royal Maelstrom only enough to delay Hyper's death. Fomicry Cash is in. Detro in front of 4, desperately trying to run. He will not get out. Fomicry Cash is 2. Flash kick. Lunar thrown out from under the turret in the face of 3. Komodo continue to roll another Resonating Strike. Lunar has to flash away. The second one lands, and Kitsuo is unstoppable. Komodo are controlling this game.
They are up 3,000 gold now. They continue to win every single fight. What was the kill score? Was it 10-5?
9-1. It was
9-1. 9-1. Since then, it is 3-11. I mean, this is baffling. You never see this in a game of League of Legends. That's the scaling. I mean, the snowballing should just negate whatever's happening. But CCG, oh man, this is a disaster.
It's a marvel to watch right now, and it's so weird to honestly be on the other side of such high-level Lee Sin play. He's using the same exact skin, folks, by the way, the Hyper uses on his Lee Sin. I feel like once you hit 1,000,000 mastery points on Lee, you have to use this exact Lee Sin skin, and I feel like I'm watching Hyper against, like, we're Tempest Gaming now, and he's Hyper on CCG from game number 1. It's the weirdest feeling ever.
I understand how enemy teams feel now when they have to go against Hyper. It feels like this. It's just so suffocating. It's almost, I don't know if you've ever seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but the final battle is that Scott has to fight himself. You have to fight yourself, and that's exactly what's happening. Although, spoiler alert, in that movie, Pilgrim wins by the power of friendship. I don't know if the power of friendship is going to save Hyper and friends in this game. Kitsuo has a taste for blood. Hold on a second.
Power friendship here. 3 versus 1 onto Doxa. The headbutt pull back into it, and they just blow him up. Throw him up in the sky 3 times. Doxa is shut down. There's a good play, headlined by Detro, but how much is it going to cost them? The bot lane for Komodo bearing down on this mid lane tier 2. Luckily, Lunar will be able to push out the wave here, but you can see Komodo, there's a reason they're a 7-seeded team. They know how to cross map and pick up advantages in other parts of the map when they lose in the side lanes.
Yeah, they're able to get top turret. I do believe this Ahri should be able to get bot turret. Indeed, they do. So it is going to be a trade of turrets, but they're barreling down on tier 2 right here on the top side, and Shockey's just might be a little bit of an appetizer.
Shockey, very, very tanky. Ooh, big all-out, pulls Kitsuo back, but Detro cancels it out with the headbutt. Maybe a little bit of misplay there. Kitsuo could have been way lower. There's a huge double knockup from Hyper, though. They immediately blow ZKG up, but the turn is huge. Kitsuo dominating, deletes Rain. Detro trying to frontline Hyper, able to get that huge reset. Another headbutt onto Kitsuo. Detro dies. Huge 3-man knockup for Hyper. If you get the Royal Maelstrom off, might be able to get a kill, but he falls. Lunar now 2 versus 3 with Shockey, desperately trying to kite back. Huge pullback on a Fomicry. Shockey's trying to do so much distance, gets the shutdown onto Kitsuo. Lunar couldn't get excited yet, though, and it's a triple kill for Fomicry. 4 kills for Komodo as they still win the fight.
Yeah, they win the fight. They continue to grow their lead. A little bit messy there, a little bit dangerous, but it ends up being a 2-for-4 Komodo. Wiping the floor with CCG. This is not what you were expecting to see with the early game that CCG is having. It's looking like spring split team Liquid. Get the early lead and just lose it immediately. And this is exactly what's happening. CCG have to look in the mirror and figure out where the hell they go here, because it is looking rough. There is a dragon up right now, and that teleport means that they are going to want to go for it. Komodo, not really in the area, so I'm not sure what they can do to try to dissuade them from going from it. And like you said, the dragons are kind of their one saving grace.
Well, here comes Kitsuo, and an Ocean Soul with a Soraka comp could be absolutely deadly. So you can see why CCG are prioritizing so much. Down below 5k, good knockback by Ditro. Rain gets a good charm onto ZKG. It's so low. Hyper picks up the dragon. Double knock up. Kitsuo on the front line. Has to gore drinker into the last breath. Ditro flashing away from Doxa solo. Topo finds Rain in the background. The huge heal comes across from ZKG. Shocky just trying to soak up all the damage, and he will fall. Komodo will give away the Drake, but they are cleaning up the fight. Hyper desperately goes in to try and find something. Gets nothing. It's all down to Lunar, and it's an ace for Komodo.
That is terrible, because now they're going to get even more. An ace for Komodo. The dragon, the Komodo dragon, just destroying the enemy team, and CCG just have to sit back and watch as they lose 2 turrets. They're going to continue to push in on mid as well. These death timers are all together, and so there's nobody here to stop it. They might have lost dragon, but they got something more important. And CCG getting outscaled, getting out killed, getting out gold. It is now, what is it, a 6,500 gold difference, which means it is a 10,500 gold swing from when CCG was up 4,000 gold at the 7.5 minute mark.
And not to rub salt in the wound here, but Topo is level 13, which means he got his Ornn itemization upgrade of Jock Show. There, you can see it on your screen, but that means he's getting to the levels where he can upgrade his teammates' items, and that won't show up in the gold department, but even inflates that more. So if you want to give some gold back towards CCG because of the 3 Drakes, it basically neutralizes it with those Ornn itemizations.
Yeah, the Ornn items are going to ensure that this game continues to snowball in the favor of Komodo. This game getting very, very difficult for CCG. We talked about that range advantage that they have, but when you've got Kitsuo coming in and kicking people around, and you've got Doxa coming in the back line and destroying the Alistar, don't really need to be concerned about the range. And we talked about Ditro on this Alistar. Doesn't feel as good as they do on the Rel, and this just goes to show why, is, man, that damage, just so much. You'd imagine on the Rel able to do a little bit more. Kind of a one-trick pony, it feels.
The Evershroud is not doing any favors for that tankiness. I know you talked about that decision-making on the Rel this game. Another Evershroud build on Alistar is really partly nerfing that tankiness again, too, when not utilizing Unbreakable Will.
Yeah, it does feel like this Alistar is kind of a snack. Not really the main course that you would expect as an Alistar, but Hyper, here we go.
Ooh, here's the scaling of Hyper. Doxa has to use Wish, but it's not enough healing from Soraka. Topo's teleport is too late. Hyper takes 3 turret shots and is now on the wrong side of Summoner's Rift, and a huge snipe comes across from Foamy Cry. Dominating now in this game. This Kaisa is online. Shocky is dead. Kitsuo gonna turn on to Baron. Komodo continue to roll down the mountain at breakneck speed.
Yeah, but this might be a bad Baron, because there are the members of CCG here. It's 3v4, but Rain, Ditro, and Lunar have the ability to try to stop this. The Baron's doing quite a lot of damage, CKG! Hold on!
Sniper, get down! Lunar takes out ZKG. They're going to jump onto the Baron now, below 2k, but they're going to try and turn and fight. They are on top of Lunar. Foamicry is godlike. Rain goes golden. They find the shutdown onto Foamicry. That Kaisa falls. It's a number of kills for Komodo, but CCG stopped the Baron take right at the last moment. Kitsuo, he wants to keep going. Hyper is back up now, and with him coming down in the Baron pit, Komodo bail out of the Baron.
They stop the Baron, and this is how they win this, by the way. This is how they win this game. They're able to get Lunar into a good position. It's unfortunate that Lunar got knocked up and kicked there because of the damage that this Jinx was pushing off. If Lunar is able to do something, that is how they win. But able to kill Doxa, that's how they win too.
Doxa overextended here. The Everfrost does not land, but he doesn't get the ultimate. He doesn't have last breath up, and Hyper finds another huge kill. CCG's way to win here is Hyper and Lunar. Those hyper scaling, no pun intended, carries of this game can absolutely wreck fights. But Bonfire, we just haven't seen them fight together yet.
Yeah, a 5v5. The last time it happened, it ended in an ace in Komodo's favor. And so I think they're a little wary about it. And if they continue to find these split pushing kills on Doxa and co, I think they're okay with that. That being said, there is a dragon up in 30 seconds, and so
Huge.
whether they like it or not, they're going to have to force their hand here, go for a fight. Doxa should be up for it. Can they find a pick before the fight? That's the real question.
This is monumental. Ocean Soul could be a saving grace here for CCG against the Snowball. And we're NA ramming it right now. Just everybody towards mid. There's a big knockup. They're trying to go on to Rain. Doesn't have Spirit Rush to get out just yet. It isn't up, a couple of seconds away, but they survive. Huge flash, pulverized. Kitsuo locked down. They're trying to get on top of Topo. The Charm makes sure that Call of Forge God misses, but Foaming Cry jumps forward, burns Shocky down. It's a mesh in the fight. Huge reset comes back for Hyper, but he's
excited.
But look at Lunar. Excited. Free hitting. The Rockets are melting Komodo by the mile. Double kill picked up. Kitsuo, the only one left up. Lunar might have just rescued the game for CCG and takes everybody out with it.
Kitsuo, the last man alive. That soul right now up. There's an opportunity for them to get back into this game. Kitsuo hanging around. They try to get a steal here. There's no smite available, but Detro should be able to stop them from doing that. Here they come. But
goes a little too early. Beautiful charm by Rain. That's the shutdown from Detro. That's Ocean Soul for CCG. This banger game just had another chapter added.
The gold continues to swing, and this time CCG are the ones grabbing the swinging vine. They get some gold back in their pocket. They grab themselves soul. This is how they win, through Lunar, through Hyper. They just need to survive the initial onslaught. Lunar that entire time was free hitting, and eventually once they get excited, these team fights feel like they are as good as dusted. And now it feels like Komodo know how they lose. You have to imagine Lunar's gonna be in their eyes in this team fight. Could be a potential Baron sneak right here. Doesn't feel like Komodo know. Now they're going to, but it's already down to 7,000.
Yeah, Hyper burning it could get that Endless Banquet reset, and they're just going to give it away. Reset picked up, and Baron on the cards for CCG. They had such a monumentous lead. They gave it away, but now they're back in the driver's seat and better than ever.
The scaling is here for them. Hyper and Lunar. Keep an eye on Rain and Shocky as well. Here's the fight. Hold on now.
Call the Forge God hits a couple. Hyper in the background, but here's Shocky and Detro. They're totally comfortable tanking it. Unbreakable Will makes that Alistar. One Mad Cow. Huge three-man kick into the last breath, though. The fight goes completely chaotic. Lunar on the background trying to get away from Foamy Cry. Hyper gets that big reset and is starting to go crazy. Foamy Cry now turned on to in the background and shut out. Kitsuo finally picks off Lunar,
no damage,
but they're going to cost everybody a triple kill for Hyper as he picks up ZKG. Topo left to the wayside. Hyper has come up huge, and it's 4 more kills for CCG.
They lose Lunar, but they kill all of the damage. If you're able to kill the Yasuo and the Kaisa, that's all the damage from Komodo. This gold lead back to even. The swing continues. Now they're going to continue to push onto topside. Inhibitor turret, maybe even the inhib in their eyes right now. Kitsuo, all he can do is hang out in a brush, doing a little dance on the Lee Sin. But it is a bit of a death dance right now as he has to watch his base get completely carved open like a Thanksgiving turkey. Hyper wants to back right here. Hold on, we might have initial and engage. They don't know about Kitsuo. Now they do. Now Kitsuo might be in a difficult position. Hyper wants to go in here. Hold on.
Kitsuo has to be careful. Yeah, kick. Last breath goes up. They find the shutdown into Hyper. CCG might have overstayed. Detro gets a huge double knockup, but they have to run for the hills. They do not win this fight. Kitsuo jumping forward now onto Shocky, trying to protect Rain here, creating enough space. Detro is just playing Distractor in the background. The tanks are falling like beautiful teammates, but it's more gold to Komodo and another opening for them late in this one.
The gold lead swings back over to the side of Komodo. This bloodbath continues to flow. Doesn't matter which team. Everybody wants to fight. Everyone wants to scuffle. It's an MMA match, and the only way that someone wins is last person breathing. Unbelievable plays from both teams. Unbelievable misplays from both teams as well, it's fair to say. But at the end of the day, would you have it any other way, Slayer? It is a banger to end the open qualifiers.
You know, I said in Game 4, Detro's beautiful Magnet Storm Ferromancy 3-man play was the reason why we play League of Legends. No, I was wrong. I'm sorry. This is why we play League of Legends. These are the games that are the reason why I wanted to devote my life to this game. So many already have. And man, you said it so well. We're just swinging like we're Tarzan on jungle vines, back and forth, and I have no idea how this one will close out.
Yeah, just like Tarzan, you want to find out who the king of the jungle is. Who is going to get that 4-1 slot? Both of these teams, with how messy they're playing, it feels like that could be the difference between top 8 and falling out early next round.
Well, we're back to NA ramming. Huge kick. Kitsuo gets Hyper up in the air. The last breath comes across. Call the Forge God. Can they burn Hyper down? The Royal Maelstrom creates enough distance, and the shutdown for Lunar comes across. A huge get excited is online. Topo is cut off. They try to slay the king that is Hyper, but all they find is death and dismay. A double kill for Lunar as CCG swing back into their favor once more.
If you come at the king, you best not miss. They miss right there. They pay it in blood. And now their eyes are on the Nexus. They continue to push in on this inhibitor turret. ZKG, Kitsuo, and Bomacry, the only ones alive, but there's nothing they can do. That's a lot of damage onto Shocky. Shocky is on that tank, and so they feel comfortable enough to walk away. Keep an eye on this Kai'Sa, though. Talk about the damage that Kitsuo and Dox are able to put across. Bomacry, 9, 5, and 10. 209 CS, and with those items, I believe they should have all of the upgrades available on this Kai'Sa, and so the damage is certainly there. The question is, are they able to get it across? The range difference really being felt right now. Lunar just always feels like they're free hitting. This Kai'Sa having a much more difficult time getting into the backline.
And Hyper really showing off how powerful Bel'Veth is late game when she goes into that Royal Maelstrom form. She's, rooted in the ground. The resistances she gets is honestly unfair sometimes. And you try to burn her down if you can't kill her with the additional knock-up last breath. She just goes in that Royal Maelstrom form, farms your health, and kills you off. And you can see exactly that play out in the last fight. And the only wrinkle we're missing, Bonfire, is a good old-fashioned Elder flip, and it's less than 30 seconds away.
This Elder could be the game decider. Both of these teams desperately trying to get that 4-1 slot, trying to win the Civil War, trying to prove who the better CCG core is. Vitro for Pride, Topo and Kitsuo showing why maybe CCG should have chosen them for their OQ roster. And here we go, we've got ourselves a fight.
Yep, we're back to NA ramming. I mean, it's staple of this region, right? All 5 in mid lane. Topo getting jumped on. Very tanky boy, though, can tank up a lot of this damage and soaking it. But Kitsuo can, or Dox, excuse me, blown up. Kitsuo jumps in the back line late. That may have been the pick that seals the fate. But Bomacry's doing a lot of damage. Hyper gets the reset on Kitsuo.
They got
He's a
Kai'Sa.
flash knockup on a Detro. Bomacry's trying to run, but is eviscerated. ZKG, the only one left. Hyper is just getting this kill for ceremonious reasons. CCG are going to win an absolute banger to close out the open qualifiers 4-1.
CCG take down ZKG, they take down Komodo, they take down everybody in their path. Actually they're gonna take down ZKG just at the very end. And CCG are 4-1. It was not clean, it was not easy. There were obstacles in the way, and they had to work for it. But at the end of the day, do they really care? All that matters to them is the record, and the 4-1 dream has been achieved.
What a game, Bonfire. What a day, Bonfire. It has been an amazing sprint of League of Legends action, and what a way to finish it out. CCG in their pseudo-civil war end things 4-1, like you heard Bonfire say. It was a star-studded game across the board from a couple of members, but just like last game, it really felt like it was Lunar and Hyper's game to win and arguably lose at points.
I will say it's great to see from Lunar as well, someone who had some pretty rough games, especially on the Xayah. At the end of the day, ended up coming in clutch on that Jinx, being able to free hit, get excited. Hyper had a fantastic game as well. I think credit should go over to Rain as well. It's just an unbelievable game. We're going to ignore that they almost threw it. I don't know how you almost throw a 4,000 gold lead at 7.5 minutes, but they did. But they won, so all I see is the big old W on the screen.
Big old W, 4-1, that marker. So many standouts. And, well, we're sort of closing down shop here. It's interesting that our energy's up here, man. How high can I go? Up here. Top of the camera allows me. And now we got to sink down here. I'm curious. We were definitely working some things out behind the scenes because we still have to award an MVP. And I think after a 3-0 day, I hope we get to talk to one of these players. So certainly have to figure things out. We potentially might go to a short break here to figure things out. But regardless, I mean, just what a day for CCG Bonfire. They worked hard for this 3-0 Sunday.
Yeah, let's do our MVPs, and then we can go to a quick break and see if we can't get an interview. If we're gonna do MVPs, okay, you go first.
Well, I was gonna say, let's leave the faithful guessing. All right, I want them to figure out. You guys back there, if you're in chat, tell me who you think the MVP has been of this CCG sprint on Sunday. We've got some votes to pick as well. We're going to throw it to a break to figure out who that MVP is, hopefully get an interview with them as well. So some more content coming your way, and we'll be back shortly. Stick with us. Welcome back, CCG faithful, and you can't see him. His name's down there. But we are joined here now by the star support of your NACL Open Qualifier now squad, Detro. Detro, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations. I just want to get your gut reaction, how you're feeling after a strong 3-0 day to close this thing out.
I got like 3 or 4 scrims in before the matches, so I'm still kind of figuring out my team and stuff. But like, look at them play today. It's like, yeah, they're a little quiet, but their mechanics are like on point every single time. Like, especially Lunar, if you watch him in those last couple fights, it's like, good lord, the man can kite.
Yeah, Lunar had some incredible Jinx games as the weekend came to a close. Detro, you've had a pretty expansive champion pool, I say with Jest. So I gotta ask, who do you prefer to play, Rel or Alistar?
I mean, let me think. If you can find a really good Alistar game, like in my game 2 of today, we were playing like Alistar into Draven or something, and it felt really bad because we're playing topside. I don't have a lot of angles in, and my job isn't really to engage; it's to just peel. It's kind of boring. But I think in the last game there, I found a really good Alistar angle where you have a lot of melees. You have you're working against like Yasuo, Lee Sin, right? There's a lot of expression for skill against those two. So I had a really fun time in teamfights just navigating, peeling Jinx and hitting a couple engages of my own. I think to answer your question though, probably gotta have to give the edge to Rel. She's flavor of the month. Like, how could I not?
I mean, she just certainly looks like the flavor of the month the way you played that game for Seamless Revenge.
Yeah.
I'm sure it feels great to have. I guess I could ask you this: how does it feel to have such a great Rel engage? You force a team to FF.
I mean, guys at Seamless Revenge are I know I'm close with a couple of them. I like them. They're good guys. But it's competition. You got to come prepared. Feels really good. But actually, FFing in comp is a little bit of a no-no, isn't it?
I believe so. I don't know the exact ruling on it, but I haven't seen it.
I think it's like an unwritten rule where you just like, you don't do it, but you do it sometimes. But yeah, they did FF. I actually wanted to go to a specific game. That last game, you guys up 4,000 gold at 7.5 minutes.
Oh,
I'm not gonna mince my words. You trolled all of you.
Yeah.
But no, hey, all that matters is you won. So what was going through your guys' minds when you started losing that lead and you're like, oh shoot.
Yeah. So we're like up 8-0. We get Jinx 2 kills. We're chilling. I say in comms, I say jokingly, oh yeah, surely it's losable now, guys. And then it was actually losable. So I think, I mean, we're seeing a little bit of the cracks. Is like we were just not a team that's practiced a lot together. I think once we start cleaning up these plays, I mean, ideally this thing should never happen. But I mean, we're still figuring it out. And we got 3 or 4 scrims lined up this week, and I'm sure we can patch those up. Yeah. And plus, we got to make it interesting for the viewers. Have fun to 3-0 and a stomp.
Every day is a banger at CCG.
Exactly.
It was funny. I'm sure you might go watch back, but myself and Bonfire are sitting there like, we love close games. Obviously, we want CCG to win, but we wanted to be we like close games when it was 9-1, and then and then it got close. But speaking back of that game 5 against Komodo, and you're talking about what the rest of your week looks like. I know tomorrow you have ACL action.
You guys have been on top of it, huh?
Yeah, we're on top of it. But just talk to me how it is playing against Topo Kitsuo, being on their team with them for that ACL bout.
I mean, like Topo and Kitsuo, they're both great guys, great players. I think Top one in particular is someone I work really well with, just because he's level-headed, he does his job well, that sort of thing. So it always stings when you have to play against players, because either way, someone's going to be a little unhappy. But I mean, I think we gave them a run for their money. I think that sometimes it's good to remind your teammates, like, yeah, like I still got it going on.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be words in that ACL match tomorrow. My final question for you before I throw it back over to Slayer is, you are, I don't want to reveal it, but or I guess I will reveal it. You are our MVP as we pull up the graphic of the weekend. You had some incredible games. Yeah, you had some incredible games on the Rel, on the Alistar.
A lot of deaths.
60. Yeah, but look at those assists. 66 assists is crazy. Got to get those kills up, my friend. But anything you want to say to friends, family, CCG faithful, with that MVP award in your hands?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually the first official one I've gotten. I've never gotten like an MVP, but honestly, it feels great to be recognized. I think there's always room for improvement, but as I was telling the team earlier, I was like, yo guys, yeah, we played a little bit weird in the last game, but we got to celebrate a little bit. We did a good job. We went 4-1. So I mean, I think mistakes that I made I could improve on, but I think that ultimately it's a nice feeling to just kind of enjoy the victory for a little bit before I have to go play literally tomorrow.
Yeah, right. And
yeah.
Against competition, pretty similar to the open qualifiers as well. Well, congratulations, Detro. But we have another surprise for CCG faithful and Detro. We're joined now by the head coach of the squad, Taki. Appreciate you jumping in here. I just want to get your overall feelings on the weekend. Obviously, Saturday was a little bit bumpy, but a strong finish nonetheless.
Saturday was Coach Cap. We messed up the draft. I think.
What were the drafts? I forgot.
We picked Tech Grim. It was stupid. I don't know why we did that.
No, we gotta practice saying no to hyper, bro.
Yeah. Tech Grim was a bit of an overcook. It should have just been Lee Sin and we would have won that game.
Overcooked, yep.
Okay, but I don't know if you guys remember this, but we would have won that game if the Maokai Q. It's been living in my head all weekend.
Rent free. Yeah.
On the first fight that we had on bot lane, it was the freest fight ever. They were killed. They were all 1 HP. Lunar flashes over the wall. The Maokai Q that's aimed at our Hecarim knocks him back over the wall, and I lost it.
I remember that. I remember that. I said it on stream too, so I remember that. I was talking about how tragic that was. If we're talking about that game, by the way, this has been, I am a little bit of a critique. I have my criticism sometimes. I gotta ask about that LeBlanc first pick. You guys prioritize that so heavily. Is that a Rain thing that they feel so comfortable on the champion, or Taki? Is that something you've been studying and you feel like it's really strong right now?
People, I think, don't realize that LeBlanc was actually still just OP. A lot of people, I even watched some of the OQ games. Some people pick the LeBlanc, but they make the mistake of building Night Harvester. Night Harvester is not good anymore. It doesn't synergize with the static anymore. You're meant to go Ludens. You'll see Rain goes Ludens every game, and it does way more damage. I know he had the first LeBlanc game wasn't that good, but I think that was more of an issue with our jungle pick. I think we should have picked Lee Sin so we could play a bit more aggressive on the 2v2.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
If you watch his LeBlanc game, I think in game 3 or game 4 today, or whatever.
It was clean. It was clean as fuck. Yeah.
He popped off. He dropped a nuke, right? The Ludens plus static damage is just too much for people to deal with.
It certainly showed out in that game 3. Taki, obviously, top 8 showing in the last open qualifiers, set yourself up for this 5th seed, but then you bring in Detro. Just talk to me about what Detro has really done, what you've seen from him, adding him into the squad.
Now you have to say nice things.
Oh, I have to say nice things. I think Dylan needs to practice more Alistar.
Come on, bro.
Some of these combos are not it right now.
I can explain. I'm 50 ping. Does that work?
Nope.
Gotta move. You gotta move now.
But no, yeah, Dylan's been great. I think at first I was a bit worried about our comm structure just because it was a bit quiet. But I think Dylan and Hyper actually bounce off each other really well. I think it's a really good balance where they both don't really overcomm. And I think Lunar generally is our kind of in-game leader. So Lunar kind of makes the call of what play we're going for, and then Dylan and Hoon are really good at just setting it up, Dylan and Hyper. So it's working out pretty well for us.
I wanted to talk about, we have a bit of an inside joke here on the stream. In Shocky We Trust was the hashtag we've been
Shocky We
trying.
Trust.
We've been
Yeah.
trying to get it going all weekend. Hashtag in Shocky We Trust after every game, after every draft. I want to talk about, Shocky, one of the standouts on this team, a fantastic top laner. What's it like drafting for Shocky? Do they have a lot of say in what they go, or it does feel like Shocky can go on tank duty, like the Cassante, and still have a huge impact?
Cassante, I think, like, at least this split has been Shocky's just best champ. Like, a lot of the games, especially when we were both on native together, he would pick Cassante and just, like, completely win us the game. So it's just a safe blind pick. I think right now the top meta is a bit weird in the sense that both Cassante and Renekton are just super strong. So you can kind of pick them early and just be, like, happy with it. Like, I'm sure Shocky can play Renekton into basically any matchup and be happy with it. But yeah, no, a lot of Shocky's picks are either Cassante or Renekton or just what he prefers into his matchup. I prefer, like, when Shocky has a counter pick he wants to play, like the Gwen, for example, I'll always give it to him because he usually performs right. Like, you saw his Gwen game earlier today, he kind of carried us.
Yeah.
I don't know what this guy is saying. He's a scrim guy. Like, he's performing in games too. He's not dropping
Okay,
the ball.
listen.
He's doing well.
Listen, the meme before was always that Shocky was a scrim god, but he would kind of drop the ball in our native matches. It's kind of been a bit of a flip now. Shocky's been performing really consistently. I'm pretty proud of how he's gone. I've been working with Shocky for a really long time. He's like my prodigy. It's like first it was Zamudo, now it's Shocky. I bring up one by one the top laners.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's a great track record, honestly, across the board, Taki. But we asked this to Detro. Obviously, that game 5 was chaos, and we asked him out what the comms were like with the very up and down nature, I'll put it, of that game. I'm curious, what was going through your head going from 9-1 up kill 4K at like 7 minutes to how that game transpired?
Dude, hands in my head. I was like, oh my god, what just happened to us? But I think I've always had a lot of trust in Lunar to be able to like 1v9 games like this. I think he's like, this is my probably my hottest amateur take, but I think he's the best team fighting AD carry in amateur right now. I think he just plays the team fight so well. He's very patient. Like, you can see it even in this game. We won this game like off the back of him being super patient and playing team fights really well. Even when we were CCG like last split, like when we made top 8. I think everybody will notice we played the game really slow. It was in Lunar we trust. Like, we're gonna wait till we get Lunar on 3 items and he's just gonna carry us in team fights. That's kind of how we win every game. Now we're able to play a bit more aggressive early. We've been working on that a lot, so it's been pretty good. But yeah, I think a lot of that game in my head, I was like, it's okay, Lunar will win this. Like, I trust him to like play well in team fights. Like, we'll be fine. That was kind of what was in my head.
That Jinx
agreed.
damage was unbelievable when it came down to it. Detro and Taki, kind of a question for both of you guys. Lunar, throughout the weekend, showed out on the Tristana, had 2 fantastic Jinx games. On the Aphelios and the Xayah, kind of got caught quite a bit. Also, I mean, they just chain CC'd him to hell and back. Do you think that was kind of a drafting error, or do you think that teams were just really prepared to go against Lunar? And then I kind of like a follow-up, what do you think Lunar's best type of champions are? Because I kind of was always that, you got to put Lunar on mobility, make sure that they can create their own plays, disengage if need be. But the Jinx just kind of shut me the hell up.
I mean,
I think the
I haven't
affiliate
seen him
team, I don't
crack
think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay.
Okay.
We're just so in
Okay.
sync.
Okay. So I think like this guy keeps pulling picks out of his I don't know, his ass, and it's like I haven't seen him crack on a champ yet. Like maybe a couple times in scrims, but like on game days when he shows up, like there's never been a champ where I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, never put this guy on this champ again. Like every pick that he's pulled out has been decent on stage. So I'm pretty happy to find that out. Also, we found out he could play Draven, which is cool. But
Yeah, we haven't pulled that out quite yet. I don't know if we should be leaking that.
He doesn't play Draven. He does not play Draven.
He doesn't play Draven. He does not play Draven. Yeah, I think in the Aphelios game, I think he played really well. He didn't die at all into the Draven lane. It was a really hard matchup.
Yeah.
I think that game he was destined to be a bit behind bot. Inevitably, they got support counter pick. They got AD carry counter pick. I think a lot of teams would have crumbled against that, especially their really early 4-man dive bot. But Lunar played it really well, didn't die, like played safe, got his farm, and just scaled into the game, which is what he was supposed to do, right?
Exactly.
The Xayah game, yeah, I think we did mess up the Xayah game a lot, but I think that was more to the fault of our draft than it was to Lunar.
Yeah.
And also just the Maokai Q, man, I can't get over it. But I mean, yeah, even in that game, the Xayah game, they 2v2 killed bot right before that play as well. Like, I think Lunar has proficiency on a lot of champions. I think his best type of champion, though, like you asked, think it's always just going to be the team fight champs. When he plays team fights and we're in late game and he's like playing a hyper carry, you can always trust him to put out as much damage as possible. Like he can always min max his damage, and I think that's what you need from a carry.
For sure, for sure.
He certainly maxed the damage in a couple of those fights. Well, guys, it's been a pleasure talking to both of you. I want to close things out here by giving you both the stage to just thank whoever you'd like to thank. You know, say your sort of goodbyes, because I know these interviews don't always happen very often for you guys. They'll be happening a lot more for you both more in the future, I'm sure. But closing thank yous from you guys. I'll make sure you guys don't talk over each other this time. I'll have the MVP go first, Detro, and then
yeah. I mean, amateur can be really unstable and volatile and chaotic, but I mean, I'm glad that CCG, you know, they were consistent. They reached out to me. They were like, yeah, I want to have you. They were upfront about it, and they gave me a shot to like kind of just prove my growth and grow some more. Like I've been want to work with Talkie for some time, and also the other coach Abaxial has been a really big help in getting me like the sort of resources that I need to grow. Because you know, as a player, it becomes harder and harder to find coaches the more you learn, right? Like at the beginning, you learn a lot from everyone pretty much, and at the end, it's like there's only a couple people that you can like trust to give you a new perspective on the game. I think Talkie's one of them. I think Box is one of them. So yeah, I just want to thank those two and also Krim for just giving me the shot, and you know, yeah.
Beautiful.
Talkie.
Talkie.
My turn. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like, huge thanks to Krim. I think he's been one of the more pleasant ore donors to work with. Like,
Yeah, right. Honestly.
amateur, like Don said, is just so hectic, and so many ore donors are so two-faced. And I think it's a breath of fresh air having an ore donor that's like really easy to talk to and work with. Like, he was very transparent with us with everything he wanted to do, and it worked out pretty well to sign with them.
Yep.
I want to shout out Munchie. I know he can't play anymore because of his wrist issues, but his legacy will be carried on. Like, we're doing this for him. Like, I want to qualify, and I want us to make Munchie proud of, like, and Ivan as well, Baruda. They both played really well in the first qualifier. They got us to top 8, and I think it's time for us to do right by them and show them that we can keep going.
Well, we all will be cheering you on from the CCG side. It's been amazing to get to cast you guys and just watch you guys play and get to chat to you guys as well. But folks, that's unfortunately going to close things out here. For big thank yous, obviously, to Krim for also allowing myself and Bonfire in this hectic amateur scene as casters for coming on here and doing the broadcast. Shout out to Alls as well behind the scenes, making things all look so beautiful. That's going to close out the open qualifiers run for CCG, but not the qualifiers at all. 4-1 finish here in the open section. Make sure to stay strapped to Rally Cry to see when their next matches begin as they move on to that group stage. For Slayer, for myself, I'm Slayer, Bonfire, and everybody here, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you again when we see you.